Welcome everyone to Radicalized Truth Survives, where you know that we have your back. My name is Heidi Kuda. I'm here with Jim Stewartson, Sean Connor, High Fidelity, my favorite dragon slayers of disinformation. We have an incredible show, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. In no particular order of importance, let's do a couple little items off the top, and then we'll get into why it matters. Senator Mark Warner urging CEOs of major tech companies to take action to curb Russian disinformation operations. Just what we've all been waiting for, a sternly worded letter. This is, I saw that and thought it was 6 years too late, and yet we'll take what we can get because at least he's reaching out to the appropriate folks. What say you guys?
Yeah, great. Again, sternly worded letter is exactly right. Like, fucking shut it down. You know where they are. It's not complicated where this stuff is.
That's
it's
right.
ON, it's RSBN, it's Fox, it's Newsmax.
That's right.
There's 150 websites that you can go to right now and see pure Russian propaganda. Shut down Telegram, for God's sake. All it is Russian propaganda.
That's right.
This is not difficult. We don't need sternly worded letters. We need action.
That's right. And speaking of action, Hi-Fi, do you have an update on SWIFT?
SWIFT, yes. It looks like Russia is going to be disconnected from SWIFT. Of course, a lot of people are like, what the hell is SWIFT? It's the Society for Worldwide International Financial Transactions. Basically, it's how banks talk to each other over the internet. And if you're not connected, you don't talk to any of the banks.
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have a little video clip to go with kind of what people are doing in Russia right now? They're sort of freaking out about it.
Well, people are freaking it.
Okay. Let's see.
So let me explain just a tiny bit what SWIFT is while this is going. It'll be funny. Sort of. So all SWIFT is like basically secure private email. So if you have a login to this thing, you can literally do transactions with other people who are in the system. But if you don't have the special key to talk to other people, and again, it's very simple technology, you end up with this. So.
Wow. Well, we have a little bit of breaking news. Go ahead, Sean.
Who have to suffer with, the consequences of their batshit leaders' actions, but they gotta understand that this guy is a menace to civilization.
To civilization.
Yeah. And this is a line just for the ATM guys.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So here we have a little bit of breaking news from our friend Martin Scheel, who never. So friends and patrons of RadPod will recall fondly episode 8, where former IRS criminal investigator who spent his career taking out money launderers and rooting out corruption. I don't think there's anybody better in our circle than Martin Scheel to assess some of this stuff, and so. I just want to give you, he just sent me an email because I sent him that Financial Times article, which listed all the global sanctions currently, as of right this moment, toward Russia for this aggression. And he said, detaching major banks from SWIFT is huge. It will be devastating to the Russian economy, which is rather paltry. He said, maybe analogous to that of Portugal or Texas, which is very interesting. He said, what is scary is the sanctions are backing Putin into a corner. He sounds more and more paranoid. He is also very enamored of his nukes, as Jim likes to remind us. And I'm getting cornered that is like a cat caught up in a tree that may decide to take desperate measures. He said, here is something else to consider. Will the Russian generals allow Putin to take nuclear measures? How much longer will the FSB and the Russian Defense Ministry and the oligarchs support Putin? He is destroying the Russian economy. He is acting like a madman. Will there be an intervention with Putin in the next week or so by the Russian elite? If Putin survives this war, it won't be long before he will be an economic vassal to China, who will hold great leverage over Russia. 2 more lines. There will be a new world order and Russia won't be a part of it because their economy will be in ruins. Putin and Russia will be restricted to the sidelines while China and the US will face off. None of that's great, but it's also profoundly accurate. We've seen Marty's forecast play out time and time again. This is very important, as we're going to learn with our upcoming guests, Alex Alvarova, who I'm so excited is going to be with us, because she has an insight into the Russian military that stands behind Putin during these pressers that I think a lot of the world is missing. And I'll give you one quick hint: vodka. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I mean, I keep saying, like, listen, this guy got himself more mind fucked than he already was during the pandemic. Like, you see him now, and dude is not a rational actor at all anymore.
Right.
He never was.
Right.
Exactly. But he's now taken it to a level that feels like a death cult
Right.
kind of
Exactly.
level.
Yeah.
And when a dude has thousands of nuclear weapons, at hand, I think there is a non-zero. I'm not going to say it's likely, but there is a non-zero chance that he will use a nuclear weapon, either as some kind of false flag event, or as a way to say, hey, okay, like you think I'm playing?
Right.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, that's when the desperation
and
kicks.
it will be desperate, but listen, like, what is the world going to do if he does that, right?
That's right.
So
right.
I'm just gonna, I have more to say later, but I'm just gonna say now again, he has to go. He cannot be left in charge of thousands of nuclear weapons.
No, and we need the Russian people actually to be the ones that rise up, and the Russian military to be the ones that rise up. So Marty sent another very critical email, and what I'm going to do with this one, because he takes one sanction. This is against the executive from VTB, one of Russia's largest banks. And he shows how hard it's going to be to enforce the sanctions because of the fucking entanglements with the West and the money laundering that all of us have been writing about and screaming about for many, many years now. And I think what we'll do with this, Sean, is we will put this up for our patrons. Sure. So those of you who support our show, who keep us going week after week with the excellent guests that we're booking, you're going to get some insight from a very important former IRS investigator. So, wow, what a freaking banging opening. I'm also going to point out Monique, our friend from Italy and Kremlin File, sent us a tweet. I don't know if we have it, with the Klitschko brothers, who I just think are offering such inspiration right now. Maybe Hi-Fi, you can just take this one.
So, Vitaly Klitschko, these guys are ex-world champion boxers, right? They're both millionaires. They could have bounced out of Ukraine and said, "Sorry about your luck. See you later." And instead, they're in the middle of it. They're in Kiev with the machine gun and bulletproof armor, waiting for Russia to come.
With Zelensky and Poroshenko and the Ukrainian people are not fucking around.
Man, the bravery we're seeing is incredible. Oh my God.
Real patriots defend their fucking capital.
Goddamn
they don't attack it.
That's exactly right. And here's what we're finding out, right?
Beautiful.
We have patriots and fascists in both places, right? We're finding out who the fascists are here.
Yeah.
We are at the point where they have to show their colors, where they have to, at fucking CPAC, start chanting for Putin. And I'll talk about this more, but we are now at that point where we are seeing how divided we are.
Yeah.
And that in other countries, we have to support the people who are like us. Otherwise, we're going to be alone. We're going to be isolated, and the
whole system breaks.
The whole system.
That's right. I'm so grateful to you guys for your insights, and I want to say I floated 2 little bulletins over the weekend. One asking, when do we sanction Putin's enablers in the West? And then I listed a bunch of them, and boy, that got a very strong response. So I feel like there are people who are aware of why there's been so much inaction for so long. Number two, I floated another idea that we revoke Council for National Policy's charitable status, because clearly their money and their organizations have been so invested in domestic terrorism, but their Putin-friendly policies have enabled also this madman. So that also got a huge response. So I feel like there is some knowledge that we need to take responsibility here for what is happening right now.
The other thing is that has to happen is well, there's two levels. One, the Johnson rule, which is that you can't have fucking politics in church. Yeah. If you want to keep your tax exempt status, you can't have politics in church. How many fucking tweets did I do? How many events did I do where all it is fucking MAGA, like fascist politics?
Yep.
Why do those people get to pay no taxes
if they're
tear down
engaging
my
in political
country?
Discussion? Yeah.
Why indeed?
Why indeed? Why the fuck do they get to pay no taxes to brainwash people into bullshit, into anti-vax paranoia, which kills people? Why do they get to do that? We got to look at the entire monetary system, at some level, and all of the hiding places that the fascists have made for themselves over the years. These networks, which includes things like the CMP, and it includes dirty churches who are nothing more than fronts for right-wing political organizations.
We know the vulnerabilities in our democracy. We know what Citizens United unleashed. We know exactly what you're talking about, Jim, and we need strong leadership to deal with it now. We don't have time for the process. This is war. I have always looked at Biden as a wartime president. He's a fucking wartime president. Time for some very, very fast executive orders. I hope that we have time.
I am very, very, very cautiously optimistic about the way he's been handling things. Good. He has been turning the screw very, very quickly. Like, everybody's yelling, "Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that?" Mm-hmm. Okay, wait 12 fucking hours. Here you go.
Yeah, right.
And I'm okay with that. Like, turn the screw, right? The thing about Putin is, like, he literally could go off at any moment, and so this kind of gradual pressure is the correct approach.
I want to
most importantly, to finish the thought, and then I'll shut up. I am impressed with the information war that we are finally fighting. I am impressed with the fact that I see a 3-mile column of Russian fucking a supply chain going towards Kyiv on CNN. That's fucking awesome. Like,
and
tell
I also
people, there's the gas and the food for the soldiers in Kiev. Like,
let's go blow it up.
That's just information.
What I want to say also for this show, perhaps if there's a Russian audience for this particular show, we see your people out in the street, and we know your bravery. We recognize it. We feel it. You are so brave, and you've been through so much. I think the longer suffering people there are, and so we witness your bravery. And we applaud it. And
the people who are out there protesting are taking their lives in their hands.
Yeah,
they're literally pulling people out of the arms of cops, as they're getting arrested. And I can't, you know me, I'm emo. I'm so emotional over it. So we see you. We see you.
The remarkable sort of solidarity gatherings across the country, and specifically in Chicago, obviously, with the large Ukrainian population there. It was huge. It was massive. It was really
It's awesome. Yeah, get out. I mean, we gotta fucking stand up for these people, man.
Yeah.
They're standing up for themselves.
I know.
Like every single person out there who is like simping for Putin, and I won't get into my thing.
Yeah.
But I will later. Oh my God, fuck you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. At least we know who they are. Hi-Fi. One other thing I want to bring up before we move into word phrase of the week. Prigozhin's mom and wife are on the sanctions list. All their assets are frozen. That's not going to sit well with him. And everyone who watches this show knows who Prigozhin is. St. Petersburg troll operation, Wagner in Africa, super bad Putin chef, super bad actor. And his wife and his mother are going to be terribly uncomfortable. So I just wanted to point that out, that they were on the sanctions list.
Speaking of the weird, strange sanctions I've never seen, and not necessarily sanctioned, but the FIFA, the confederate, the body of governing, international soccer, football, recently they declined to expel Russia from the World Cup this round. What they did, which I've never seen before, they made all of their qualifying matches to get into the World Cup at neutral sites with no fans. And they can't play their anthem and they can't show their flag.
Wow.
Oh wow.
That's insane.
They can't even play under the title of Russia. They're like,
so they can't. So they're stripped of their flag. They're stripped of playing the anthem. There are no fans in their neutral sites.
Yeah, it's like the Russian Olympic Committee, right?
It's That's like great. So I've never seen sort of international soccer sanctions before, but that's pretty strong.
During the Winter Olympics, they did the same thing, right? They didn't have the Russian flag. It was the Russian Olympic Committee that was the entity that the Russian athletes were under. And I think that's correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not the athletes that we're angry at. Let the athletes be athletes, as long as they're not doing doping and shit like that.
Well, they were doing doping and shit like that.
So.
Well, the athletes, as Leslie Jones says, are prisoners too.
Qualifying in that it's no easy feat, and now they're playing no fans in neutral. There's no home site, so it's going to be pretty.
Interesting news about
teams
Chelsea.
That refuse to play them.
Chelsea.
Interesting news about Chelsea.
Yeah, and that's even if international teams wouldn't boycott and refuse to play them at all.
Yeah. Under new ownership, and you saw that his daughter was tweeting anti-Putin memes. So,
so Chelsea Football Club in England is run by Roman Abramovich. For our listeners who don't know, and he is a Russian oligarch. And
he gave it to the Chelsea Charity Federation.
Yeah. And
is he still making money off it? That's the real question.
Well, these entanglements are not going to be an easy thing to sort through, but any action right now, any positive.
You know how to solve a Gordian knot?
Oh no. We'll just make that a rhetorical question. Okay, so let's jump in. Hi-Fi. Word phrase of the week. I think it's an important one. They're all important.
Yes. Word phrase of the week this week is strongman. And when I say strongman, I'm not talking about the circus strongman who bends iron bars. No, I'm talking about a leader who rules by the exercise of threats, force, violence, specifically with the use of law enforcement and the military.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what Vladimir Putin is. That is what Kim Jong-un is.
That's what Trump was trying to be.
That's what Trump was trying to be. But we have the rule of law here in America, keeping us safe from fuckers like that.
It's what DeSantis is trying
supposed
to do.
To keep us safe.
Yeah.
Well, DeSantis is a great example, right? Because DeSantis is like, no, we don't. You fuck the military. We're gonna have our own army, right?
Yeah. What is he gonna have? The Florida Guard,
National Guard that doesn't report to the actual U.S. military. That is just a fucking militia.
Yeah.
That is controlled by the governor of Florida. Like.
What? Yeah. And you guys saw, in real time, the little green men who showed up on Trump's watch. the more we know about strongman, Mussolini, the history of fascism, the more we recognize this stuff. The trucks with the flags 100 years ago, the little green men, we've seen it before. So
just to fact check,
Tutusky.
yeah.
little green men were Obama. It was
Trump had his little green men
talking
during
about
the
green men in
BLM
Portland.
marches.
Yes, I'm talking about the little green men that showed up in Portland, where there was no insignia and we didn't know who they were.
The original Little Green Men reference is Crimea, when which is why I got confused. Like, just to be clear for the audience, the Little Green Men were actually Spetsnaz, special forces, Russian soldiers who showed up in Crimea to take over the country, and we didn't really say much about it. We just kind of let it happen, and they were just taking over buildings, and then there were fucking tanks, and we just kind of let it happen. And that was a terrible error in every possible way.
Yes, that's right.
We needed to point out over and over again what was going on there, and we did not.
That's right. And we just did the exact same with Belarus, as Monique pointed out. So, there's blood on the hands of our world leaders, and we need to stop the bleeding as soon as possible. Anyway, on that very sobering note, let's move on to why it matters.
Flamey and Sean.
Sean.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why high fidelity?
Wow.
All right.
Sean.
First story this week. Pill pushers pay out. What is that about? 4 companies, Johnson & Johnson, AmerisourceBergen, Cardinal Health, and McKesson, will pay a combined $21 billion for their roles in the opiate crisis. Why does this matter? Well, let me tell you something. They're going to pay out $21 billion, but guess what? Not a single one of them is going to admit to any wrongdoing whatsoever. No executives will be sent to prison.
Unfortunately, that's common in almost every settlement that you see. There is a no-fault clause that the defendant, mandates that's in the settlement agreement. So part of getting that money and executing the settlement is the fact that they have a no-fault clause in the state in the settlement, so that they can't be held liable in the court of public opinion.
And go ahead. I was just going to say, back to Martin Scheel.
Yeah.
The Yates memorandum, we need to bring back the Yates memorandum, which would put white collar criminals in prison. That might scare them.
The idea that these guys can just murder people, just knowing that they have these fucking salespeople out there just pushing it into these communities on purpose to get people like hooked on this shit over and over and over again. Thousands, hundreds, millions and millions of people addicted to this shit on purpose, people dying, families torn apart. And these guys like get to do a rounding error on their net on the value of their company, and nothing happens. It's absolutely
horrifying.
Unacceptable.
And as you dig into these companies more, like I have in the past 10 years, they build in these slush fund for lawsuits into their
they do
dividends. So they, Johnson & Johnson's, for example, is typically a $2.5 billion litigation fund set aside every year. So that's built into the shareholders' dividend every quarter. They update them on litigation risks, and they always sort of, have this money set aside.
Yes.
They don't know what they're going to get sued for. They know they're going to get sued. They're going to pay the fine and move on. It's a part of business. It's an operating cost for them, which is disgusting when you see the spreadsheets. They know how many people are going to get injured. They know approximately how many people, will become
the biggest criminals in the world wear suits and fucking ties.
I agree.
Sorry.
And look at Deutsche Bank. I will never forget that they had to pay out like $600 million after laundering $10 billion in oligarch cash. They don't feel any pain over that. None of their executives have gone to prison. So everybody should look up the Sally Yates memorandum, which would, if instituted, make white collar criminals think twice, because their executives would go to prison. And I think that's something that is mandatory. That's another Martin Scheel advisory bulletin.
I have one other
yes.
white collar crime that I would like to see prosecuted, which is the crime of nearly 1 million Americans dying from COVID
Yes.
unnecessarily because
Yes.
of the political machinations of Russian assets in the White House. Namely Donald Trump and Jared Kushner, who decided that since COVID was mostly in the blue states, that they were just going to let it go, and they were going to trash on purpose the actual plan that they had already in place to fucking respond to COVID, and they didn't, and then 1 million people fucking died. Wow. So how do we let that go? Any more than we let the executives of these drug companies who have killed an equivalent number of people.
It's just, I mean, it's so important that we continue to mine recent history, recent news. It's all happening so fast with the 24-hour news cycle of shit and of pain that we don't forget these very important stories. And these are real lives.
That's the thing. They're real lives.
It's
real,
criminal.
Real
well, you know what would help?
families.
We stop letting individuals with money make all the fucking rules. Speaking of individuals with money making all the fucking rules,
Well
let's
done.
talk about our next story.
Well done, Hi-Fi.
Teal teeters on treason. Say that 5 times fast, kids. Peter Thiel is teeters. All right. Well, I was trying to be nice.
No, that's fine.
Right in doesn't rhyme. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your flow.
I like the creepy image that Sean, who, by the way, has a new microphone, and we can now hear 3 out of 4 words, and we're so glad. Sean swallows the 4th one. It used to be 1 out of every 2, and I'm so thrilled that I can hear you because what you have to say is important too. So obviously.
It's an East Texas mumble algorithm.
Oh my God,
he doesn't have a boom mic. He's got a boom Hauer mic. Anyway. Teal and treason.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Teal and treason.
Let's do it.
All right. So Peter Thiel has recently been tied to a dark money PAC that is supporting far-right GOP candidates. And he himself personally has spent over $20 million of his own money to try to get Blake Masters, former CFO of Thiel Capital, elected in Arizona. He is trying to get JD Vance elected in Ohio. This guy is doing everything he can to put his people in power because he seems scared. And I think the reason he's scared is because people are starting to wake up to the fact that Facebook and Twitter were complicit in allowing the January 6th insurrection.
Yes.
That, they've been laundering Russian disinformation and trying to fracture our society.
Yes.
And if you look far enough back in Peter Thiel's history, you're going to find a bunch of Russian money.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, can we just take a moment to point out that JD Vance and Blake Masters are competing with each other for like the Andrew Dice Clay of fucking right-wing politics.
Yeah, right.
If anybody remembers that, dumbass. Like they're just they're tripping over each other to be Peter Thiel's id. Right?
Yeah.
Like the worst possible fascist, misogynistic, despicable, anti-vax piece of garbage is imaginable, and they're like they try and outdo each other.
That's right.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
And it's literally just from the id of Peter Thiel. It's what Peter wants to say himself, but he just trains and hires these little monkeys. He gives them $10 million. He's like, go. And every once in a while, gives them a few lines to say. It's remarkable.
It is. And stepping down from Meta to focus on fascism does not eliminate any culpability. And I also think that it's interesting when you say the money that was, taken from people like Yuri Milner, who I noticed did not include on his resume the fact that he had worked for a bank where everybody but him actually went to prison for racketeering and criminal behavior. So I think it's really important, again, that we don't forget our recent history. And I also want to point out one thing that is going to piss me off in perpetuity. The billionaire fanzine Forbes, who we now know editor is part of CNP, they did a cover story in December of 2016, already on the printing press in November, which showed that Jared Kushner was the brilliant guy behind getting Trump into office. And in that billionaire fanzine cover story was a report on how Peter Thiel was his man in Silicon Valley that connected him with all the people that then ended up running the digital campaign. And so I don't think we can forget that, because we now know very much, like we've been talking about for many, many years, that Trump is a Russian asset, and Peter Thiel facilitated him getting into office. So let's just not forget who these people are. You see him like foaming at the mouth.
Brad Pascal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it was my wife. You guys know, went to college with Brad Pascal.
Oh,
Guy that
God.
ran the digital campaign for Trump.
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
I don't know.
I mean, I've written a lot about Mr. Thiel, and so we won't get into it. But that guy has been really, really there at the center of anti-democratic activities for the last 20 years, and was very early, if not the originator of Satoshi and Bitcoin. Like, I'm going to say that out loud right now. Like, can I prove that Peter Thiel, I'm not saying Peter Thiel was typing Satoshi's shit, but he was there. He absolutely helped to promote that, and he's more or less admitted to it all along. He said, like, I was with Satoshi at this conference in 1998. He's basically telling people he started Bitcoin. And last thing, Bitcoin is outlawed in Russia. It's outlawed in Russia because it's a Russian op. For fuck's sake. It's here to disrupt our economy. And it's put in place by anarcho-capitalists who would much rather Vladimir Putin be in charge of Eurasia than a whole bunch of liberals.
Last thing I will say on that is that there's a lot of effort in media to continually do puff pieces on him. I ask our viewers to be aware of the Peter Thiel choir boy puff pieces that have been proliferating the interwebs. Be aware of them. When you see them, recognize them for what they are. There's a lot of publications that don't want to be gawkered, and so they are continuing to paint him as a choir boy, and we can safely say that he is not. They still,
I just want to point
they
out,
still happen.
I just want to point out, if he's not fucking laundering money, why is he starting up all these venture capital, financial technology companies all over the fucking world with money from who knows where, right? Every single one of these, if you look at it, could be a venue for laundering money. There's financial loans. There's, fake credit card companies. You look at who's the guy who started PayPal, Max Levchin. That guy's doing a firm. That's a credit card company. I mean, there's so many ways
we don't
that
know
money can be manipulated by these assholes.
We do not
the whole
know.
PayPal mafia, man.
PayPal mafia.
It was started to actually be able to have transactions that people couldn't see. So lest we forget the origins of PayPal. We don't know, but we would ask our financial friends to explore this and report back to us.
PayPal
Explore
was
it? No,
to
give him a colonoscopy.
PayPal was Bitcoin. It was supposed to replace the economy.
Yeah.
But it got valuable enough, and I guess Peter decided to cash out to eBay instead of using it to do his plans, and he went and
he's not dumb. Peter, you're not dumb.
No, he made most of his money
he's
using a loophole. There's a loophole in the 401k contributions and the raw style contributions, and that's how he was able to double, triple his money really, really quickly by putting huge amounts of investments into that 401k. It gets taxed hardly at all. And so
he
now
put a bunch of Facebook stock in there.
tons of
When it
money
blew up.
Yeah.
I would
Forbes
love to
still
have.
says he has $4 billion, which is missing probably 2 zeros. Maybe, he's
Well, the last one I saw for him was 2.6. Right.
There's no, the latest one is 4.2, but that's ridiculous. He's got Elon Musk type money. It's just in Bitcoin. Where do you think the million Bitcoin are that are missing?
Speaking of Elon Musk, I'm a little worried.
Just saying.
Speaking of Elon Musk, I'm a little worried, right? Because the infrastructure attacks in the Ukraine, people in the Ukrainian government said, hey, Elon Musk, can we utilize Starlink for internet? Elon Musk said, sure, here you go. I don't trust Elon Musk, so what better way to fuck up your enemy by having their communication lines? So I do not trust.
I just
want to encrypt everything, Ukraine. That's all I'm saying.
I want to go back to Teal for 1 second because he is from my hometown by way of Germany, where my family is also from.
You're from Cleveland? I'm from Cleveland.
No, he did time in Cleveland too, but no, he's Foster City and I'm San Mateo. All the same people. I think a few years younger. I'm very concerned because him and his ilk destroyed my hometown and my area, and greed became very good and priced out all the people who were living in the Bay. And I'd love to have a conversation with him in German about just that. So that's on the table. Wir können auf Deutsch sprechen. Be good time.
Just for the reference, this ProPublica article cites Teal took a retirement account of less than $2,000 in 1999 and spun it into $5 billion.
All right. La-di-da, la-di-da.
That's through the 401k.
Through a series
the loopholes.
Of incredible coincidences and lucky. Like, for example, he put $500,000 into Facebook, got 10%, and 2 years later, a dude comes in and drops $2 billion in it to make his shares worth $2 billion.
Yeah.
Like,
who was that? Was that Sergey Grishin by any chance?
It could have been.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the reason why he turned that money is not because of IRA trickery. It's because of him getting a bunch of
IRS trickery.
Big whales to come in after him and make his investments stupid.
While exploiting loopholes to remain tax-free for.
And the other thing
you said IRA, Jim. You meant IRS. I'm just making sure that you didn't mean IRA.
The Roth IRA.
Okay.
Roth IRA.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking of internet troll. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of IRAs.
Got you.
The retirement account.
All right, let's get out of this.
Okay, so.
All right, last story. We're going to do this one fast.
Quick.
This one's called Free Speech Phonies. And the reason I call it Free Speech Phonies is, if y'all remember, 2019, 2020, all these right-wing politicians in the United States were, big tech is censoring us, and they're silencing conservative voices, and we're going to go to Parler, or now we're going to go to Truth Social. Literal censorship occurred in Russia when Putin shut down Facebook and censored Twitter from people who were sharing what was actually going on in Ukraine and showing the bodies of civilians who had been, killed by military fire, that apartment buildings, not, civilian targets were being bombed. Putin said, yeah, shut that off. Not one single conservative who has been crying about big tech censorship has said a fucking thing about real censorship. They're a bunch of phonies. People need to realize they're being fed bullshit.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. If Putin didn't seal off his cyber borders, he would not still be in power. He has for 20 years sealed the cyber borders. People in Russia live in this horrible vacuum, but at least information vacuum, but at least they know better than to trust his ass. So moving along, thank you for that. Hi-Fi. Jim, did you want to comment?
Nope.
All right, let's get to brief legal briefs. Make a
Briefly briefs.
There it is. So a few stories. I think the one that I'm most closely following is the Madison Cawthorn effort to get him knocked off the ballot. Unfortunately, has come to an end. The congressional maps were redrawn in North Carolina twice since that was filed, since the 14-3 amendment was filed against him. So this unfortunately throws that out. The challengers, the people who they were representing, are now ineligible because they don't live in that 13th.
So fucking redistricting.
Yeah,
That's what you're
redistricting,
saying?
essentially. Yep, got it thrown out. Which is, there was a strange, he was going to switch districts anyway, but then, as this lawsuit came into play, he made that certain that he was in a different district.
Well, is he still going to try to run? Is the question.
He is going to run, and they're going to file the same lawsuit in the
new district.
Okay,
yeah,
at least
it
that.
still is more sort of judicial trickery and legal, machinations.
And
they're playing shell games.
And explain the reason that they're trying to make it impossible for him to run. It's because he was involved in the insurrection, correct? They don't want an insurrecting congressman. Okay. So you also have a quick update on something that freaked everyone out last week in New York.
Oh yeah, so they, and this is the criminal case against Trump in New York, when the two attorneys sort of suddenly resigned, and everyone was confused because the new DA came in, and the New York Times reported, and it sounds like this is probably true, the case was either going to get dismissed, they weren't going to file the criminal cases. Typically, there's civil cases will wait for the criminal case and sort of support the criminal case, and then after the criminal case, the civil case will, take its will occur. But the civil case had been far outpacing this criminal case for a while, so people were getting really confused.
Got it.
And apparently, the attorneys that retired or resigned did so because there was good reason for them to think that the case was going to get dropped.
Okay, well,
pursue the criminal case. So
I did hear that the Manhattan DA appointed a new attorney.
They did.
Who's gonna head that team, but she's got 10 years of white collar crime defense.
Yeah, so there's some concerns about what the motivation is. Either the case was bad, or there's some sort of more sinister sort of slow playing going on there for the criminal case.
Well, Tish James sounded very encouraging on it, but I will say something's going to get that bastard. Something's going to get him. You can't do a lifetime of criminality and not have some shit catch up with him. So I'm here.
How about killing 18. 1 million people?
Yeah.
Well, there's that.
Thank
one
you,
too.
Jim.
No, he does have 18 legal cases against him right now.
Yeah, the Georgia case is going to be hard.
Seriously, crimes against humanity. That's what he needs.
Yeah.
Take him to the Hague.
He is a traitor to the United States.
Yeah.
Who murdered people.
Yeah.
For fascism.
Putin Putin continues his war and gets to the kinetic phase, and Trump calls him brilliant. Fuck that guy.
Let's talk about how deep Putin has gotten into our
okay, so let's get to Hellscape.
Jim Stewartson's Hellscape. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
All right, so look. Vladimir Putin is not your friend, any of you. Here's I want to just walk you through a little bit of what's going on in the depths of Mike Flynn QAnon land.
Important.
Sean, do you have that article? The propaganda that Putin himself, not even the Kremlin's official propaganda, but Putin's most frothing at the mouth, insane genocidal propaganda, is that actually the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian populace is full of Nazis, full of neo-Nazis. So just scroll up to where it says X22 at the top there. Go back a little bit, right there. That's good. So X22 is Dave Hayes. It's part of his network. Dave Hayes and X22 Report are either working for or with Steve Bannon, one or the other, but his entire network is on Steve Bannon's War Room network. It's
Okay.
on literally the same servers. These
Okay.
two are working together. Also, Dave Hayes happens to be one of many Qs. In 2018 and 2019, that dude had the trip code to Q, literally Q.
Can you tell our audience what a trip code is?
A trip code is a password on 8chan.
Thank you.
Which is how you log into being Q. And if you had the trip code, you could post a Q drop and it would become an official Q thing.
Got
And
it.
Dave Hayes, along with a bunch of other people that I'll, continue to name, posted as Q and are absolutely in league with Mike Flynn and Steve Bannon. And what does fucking Dave Hayes have to say? What does this entire network have to say? They are saying, actually, yeah, no, Ukraine is full of neo-Nazis, and it's good what Vladimir Putin is doing because it's going to get rid of the neo-Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Zelensky's fucking Jewish. What are they talking about?
Well,
Look, hold on. This is Russian Kremlin dangerous genocidal propaganda.
thank you.
Now, look at the 3 stars in X22's thing. Now, let's keep going a little bit. We'll scroll down some more. Here's some more X22. Doing Zero Hedge, which is another Russian op, like 1,000%. Ukraine is a deep state cash cow. That's what Zero Hedge wants you to know, what Dave Hayes wants you to know. Really what's happening is we're cleaning out the bad actors in Ukraine. Like all the bombing that's going on is actually bombing the pedos and the deep state and the cartel, right?
And that is disinformation.
So let's
They're
go to
killing
Jim Watkins.
children.
Let's go to Jim Watkins. Now, I'm going to talk to a particular person right now who gave me a hard time for saying that this was Kremlin propaganda. Because, the Azov battalion, who is related to Adam Waffen, horrendous neo-Nazi organization, because they had some members in Ukraine, that means that Putin's propaganda is correct. Are you out of your fucking mind? Why Jim Watkins is posting this thing from 2014 is to support Kremlin propaganda. And if you're too dense to understand that, that's not my problem, that's yours.
Right.
Okay, next.
Right.
But we can just go through here, but hold on. We're going to stop on Aaron Mattei. Aaron Mattei is supposedly a leftist. He runs a thing called Gray Zone, and he's got Matt Taibbi and Max Blumenthal and a bunch of other, like, just straight up Russia apologists, right? This is the guy who initiated the whole Blue Anon thing that I got tarred with for a year and a half, and that Mike Flynn used to cover for himself in QAnon. So let's go a little bit. So this is from a year and a half ago when all these idiots started on me, and now here he is yesterday, like saying that the U.S. got what it asked for. Sorry, honey, I think you might have been asking for it. Are you serious, Aaron Mattei?
Wow,
I
so
think,
bad.
I think you are an anti-democratic operative and should shut the fuck up. Sorry, I'm getting turned up.
Who
Let's
pays
just
for the
continue
gray
a little
zone?
bit. We're going to
pays for
scroll
the
real
gray
quick
zone?
through the rest of these because they're all the same. It's all the same. Here's my old friend E, who's pushing Julian Assange bullshit constantly. Here's Q-Time Network with the 3 stars, who says, you are just witnessing the systematic destruction of the old guard. The fucking deep state is what's getting blown up in Ukraine instead of citizens.
We're gonna talk about that
into
with
the
Alex.
fake news media narrative. America should be going to war to cover up the crimes Biden committed in Ukraine. Mindy Robinson, the clearest Russian op on planet Earth.
Right.
Let's go. Keep going. Misty G, 3 stars. We the media. Oh my God, 3 stars. QAnon old school Pepe Deluxe. Let's keep going. Oh, so they're showing again that the Azov battalion who showed a flag, a Nazi flag in some mall somewhere, and that means that what Putin is doing is legitimate.
Jim, can I stop you for 1 second? What platform are you finding this stuff on? And
This is Telegram.
I don't know
Telegram
how you are not in a
owned
rage.
by Pavel Durov.
Right. Okay.
Who is a Russian national,
Yes. Right.
who is a libertarian
Right.
who lives in UAE.
Right. I don't know how you don't stay in a rage over this stuff. I mean, I appreciate you bringing it to everyone's attention, but I am so hurt that you have to fucking be that guy who does this, because this shit is mind fuckery.
So the guy who runs, hold on a second, Jim.
Yeah.
The guy who runs Russian Telegram lives in the UAE, and the UAE just, what did they do in the UN? They abstain from a vote to, it had something to do with Russia and the
Look
Security
it up while
Council.
Jim keeps going.
The UAE, I mean, that's where Eric Prince lives.
Oh,
like
well,
that.
there you go.
The UAE, the UAE, Dubai, and Saudi, MBZ, MBS, they've been funding this shit too. They're fascists. They're in league with Putin and Netanyahu and
it's distressing.
All these people who are trying to engineer the destruction of global liberal democracy.
And I think we have. Do we have that clip? Go ahead, Sean.
Well, I was going to say the other more frustrating thing about this is while they're projecting that there's these neo-Nazis, supremacists everywhere. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, right, attending the what's his name?
Nick Fuentes.
Fuentes.
AFPAC, American First Political
Where
Action.
they cheered for Russia.
Oh yeah, they cheered for Russia, and then if you guys want to watch this clip, it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty disturbing. This is the Russia clip where they cheer on Russia, and then Russia.
And then I want to watch Michael McKay square this thing that Jim just brought up.
And you want to know the secret? To borrow a phrase from a friend of mine, our secret sauce here, it's these young white men. That's what we call the secret ingredient. America and the world has forgotten about them, but not us. They say about America, they say, diversity is our strength, And I look at China and I look at Russia. Can we give a round of applause for Russia?
Yeah, let's applaud war crimes.
What's wrong with this kid? What is wrong with him? What's wrong with him?
He's a fucking Nazi.
Fucking Putin.
What's wrong with him, though?
He is a Nick Fuentes got picked real early on. He's an incel. Mm-hmm. Started the Groypers, right? He started the whole thing with Apu and the Groypers. What he's been doing for a long time is inserting Nazi ideology into the right wing. Mm-hmm. And he started it out. It started out sort of jokey and memey, and you'd have kind of hints of Hitler and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And now he's just straight up out there, saying Putin is good, Hitler is good, white men are good.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah,
he's
watch guys.
Literal Nazi who has hundreds of thousands of followers, has fucking Paul Gosar, has Marjorie Taylor Greene, has actual support.
Who, by the way, backtracked and said she didn't know what he was about.
Yeah, let's watch this introduction of this. You tell me.
A standard bearer of Trumpism in the U.S. Congress. She is pro-life. She is proudly America first. And I want to say a very special thank you to Milo Yiannopoulos for making this happen. He made this happen. He put it together.
Fucking Milo.
Yep.
Whoops. That's Milo over there. He's throwing some stuff around. But thanks to him, we are honored, we are humbled and excited to welcome to the stage right now for our first speech, and we love to get to know her much better. I think this is going to be the beginning of something great. The representative from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Chanting for Putin and bringing on Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's awesome.
Who then said she didn't know that he was a Nazi.
She's a fucking liar.
Well,
let's be clear. She is a Nazi.
Yeah.
So not only did she say she didn't know, but then of course this tactic that you've seen on Telegram, she started blaming Joe Biden.
Yeah.
No mincing words here. One of the first tweets I did about this whole goddamn thing was her promoting America First symbology in her congressional race. And I was just like, America First, wait. And then I did a Google and it was like, wait, yeah, it's the fucking Ku Klux Klan.
And they know.
What the fuck?
They know. Remember that video when she first came on the scene, like right after Trump was ousted? And the first thing they do is they go right to her as she's chasing down one of the survivors of Parkland. And I knew we were in trouble and this was going to be our next grotesque that we were going to have to look at. And sure enough,
straight QAnon shit.
And going back even farther, how come nobody investigates the fact that her opponent, her Democratic opponent, was literally trolled out of the fucking race?
Her Republican opponent. I mean, that was the interesting thing. It was the guy that was actually on the Republican side whose life was shattered, from what I recall.
Yeah.
I would very much like just to have that palate cleanser reset with McKay explaining what the Nazi Putin thing is really about, because I think it's important. And then I can't wait to bring on Alex.
Yeah. So explaining what you really mean by Nazi.
Yeah.
Denazification.
This is Michael McKay, who is a Canadian scholar who lived and worked in the Ukraine and has been a one-man foreign correspondent.
Today, usually I don't like to talk about what Putin says because I know it's all propaganda and so on.
Yeah.
But sometimes he lets go what his true motivation is. He says, why am I launching this large military offensive tonight on Ukraine? It's to denazify Ukraine. That's what he said. Now, I know exactly what he means. He means, and this is a threat, I'm going to do to you, Ukraine, what I did to Germany. I am going to rocket your capital city, like the Red Army did Berlin, until it is rubble. I will enslave your people, as Russia managed to do to Eastern Germany.
Yeah.
I will go on a rampage of mass killing and mass rape and deportation, exactly as the Soviet Union. That's what denazification means to them. We think it means, some ideological reorientation, getting a thing. No, that's not what it means to them. It means a war of annihilation, like we've not seen since the Red Army and what they did, or since ancient times.
Thank you. I think
we're talking about genocide here. We are talking about a man who is capable of it and has the tools to do it.
And has the Republican Party, spouting his propaganda and support. So these are dark days, and we've been warning about it, and here we are. And who better to really wake up America than our friend Alex Alvarova, who grew up in Soviet-era Czechoslovakia before it became the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. And I'm so excited that you're here with us and that you're going to be dropping some knowledge on our viewers who are global. We have a heavy percentage in America, but they're global. Alex is an anti-disinformation activist. She is also a public relations professional, and she is an author of a very key piece of a very key book that's in Czech called, let me see.
The Industry of Lies.
The Industry of Lies, which I think is an incredibly brilliant title. And then she also did a nonfiction bannonist thriller called Feeding the Demons. And so can you please tell our viewers what it was like as a child growing up in Soviet-era Czechoslovakia?
Yeah, actually, I was born 1 year before the Soviets, before the invasion, before the Soviets came to our country on tanks and started slaughtering the people in Prague. I was 1 year old when they came. And I had a quite nice childhood until the moment I can clearly remember. I was 8 and I was watching out of the window and there was some man zigzagging on the street, like obviously drunk, and was shouting some kind of political stuff I didn't understand. And it was funny to me. So I was like, I went like, look, Daddy, there's some drunk on the street. It's funny. And he was looking out of the window with that long staring view, didn't say for like 1 minute anything. And then he went, yeah, he's maybe drunk, but he maybe goes from the interrogation on the secret police. And for the first time in my life, I realized there is something terribly bad happening out there behind the door of our apartment.
Right.
And since that very moment, I was like trained by my parents and by people around, also in the school, that there are two realities, two parallel realities, and you need to be able to fluently switch among them. The private one, it means like your parents, your brothers and sisters, your husband, at least, sometimes even not this. And then the other people, and you can't trust literally no one. There is no one you can trust, no one. Anyone can go to the secret police and spill on you, and then you go to jail for stupid stuff, just saying anything. So we lived in a permanent schizophrenia, like having two lives together. So the public one and the mode, like you are allowed to speak on public. So you immediately after you leave your door at home, you switch to that second mode, and you existed like completely different being, which is controlled. The face matters. It means like you couldn't laugh when the Brezhnev or the High Communist Party bozos were talking. You were not allowed even blink. Everything was controlled. I can remember when I was 12, some guys, there was always this sweet subversion of rock music, of American music to our culture. Kids love to listen to Led Zeppelin and Queen and stuff. And some boys of them had long hair. And they got immediately huge problems in the school just for having long hair, because this was a Western culture symbolism, which was not allowed. So we got used to live two completely different lives at once, the private one and the public one.
And how much tension did that put on you, that kind of paranoid feeling of never knowing if somebody was going to sell you out, or, you know, where this would take your family? What kind of pressure was that like?
It's constant. You get used to it because it's like permanent. There is no way to hide. So you the TV, in all media, you are attacked by propaganda, and you need to stay sane because you know inside of you it's not truth, but it's hard to cope, like to get the balance, not to get completely nuts.
Right.
So all of us, my generation has kind of that very specific mental injury, like something like PTSD, because we were extremely trained in living in those two parallel realities, and it was pretty much stressful. Because you
Yes.
never knew if your teacher in the school can, even teachers were obliged to sign some like write reports to the secret police about the kids, because kids are talking in the school, right? So my parents always told me, do whatever they say, never talk what we are talking about in our family, what we are talking about at home. Let them feel like we are okay. Never talk. So sometimes when the discussion went really hot at home, so they closed the door and speak like behind the closed door, that I do not listen, because they were scared I will tell some shit in the school.
And what is really hard for me to hear, and I'm so sorry, emotional alert. My dad was born in Czechoslovakia. He was born in Sudetenland. Sudetenland was handed over to Hitler. My dad grew up with intense poverty, intense paranoia. The Russian front was right outside his door. He grew up with, tanks with dead bodies in them. And I grew up with transgenerational trauma over this, and I didn't know it. I had to understand it retroactively. And for me, whatever side of this you were on, there were impacts, and we're allowing this shit to happen again. The West has allowed us to come to this point. And from your experience, and also the work that you've done investigating disinformation and writing books about it, how big of a part has this fucking dual narrative of reality and what is a paranoid fiction being sold played into this day that we have before us today?
I think pretty much everything around propaganda is about this, because propaganda is actually creating virtual reality around you just by two simple means: amount and repetition. So it's about the mere exposure effect. The more you get exposed to the lie or to the virtual reality they create, the more you get used to it. So first, when you hear it for the first time, you know it's a complete bullshit. When you hear it for the second time, you say, okay, it's a bullshit, but I've listened to this and sometimes before, and it's not that unknown like previously. Okay, let's put it aside, but I can think about it later. And so the completely false narrative, the trickstery, stays in your mental universe somehow on the orbit. And in the moments when you are not completely conscious, it's falling down to the center.
Shit.
Until one day you wake up and it's somehow part of your cognitive universe. You take it like, okay, it might be true, or I should probably think about it. Lots of people are talking about it, and the TV keeps repeating that. Opinion keepers are keeps repeating that. So it's everything around you. And if the amount and repetition is constant and strong enough, a certain part of the population gets broken down. So their cognitive matrix gets broken, and
So
they just say, okay, maybe it's this shit.
Fuck.
I don't know.
I want to point out for the viewers, especially anyone who's confused about the Soviet Union, about communism, and at least in the form that Vladimir Putin is interested in restoring. This is testimony from someone who is telling you what that means. Now, if you can listen to Alex and say that that's what you want in your life, for your children, for your family, then something's wrong with you. And if you haven't figured it out yet, you need to listen to what she has to say some more.
That's
so
right.
I'm going to shut up now.
I have just a
but I
simple
wanted to point out
story
to
about
our
it.
audience, this is what it is that we're
Thank you,
fighting.
Jim.
You know, when the Russian propaganda entered our information space for the first time after the Velvet Revolution, with the full force 2013, it was somehow very familiar to me, what I have seen. But the weird stuff was, it was coming from America. Just the names were different. So it wasn't anymore like imperialist America and weapons and warmongering and stuff. I knew that vocabulary from the 80s and from the 70s. So just the names, the vocabulary changed. This time it was neo-Marxists, progressivists. And so the names of the enemies changed, but the syntax and the way how they do it, like to push people against each other and to create emotional outrage, to keep you, that the hate gets daily doses of fresh flesh. It was exactly the same.
And can you please tell our viewers what it was like to be divided between two leaders, with everybody thinking that their leader was the one, and how that was part of an active measure in your country? Because that's what really tipped you off to be able to write Industry of Lies.
This is actually very, very funny that Czech Republic, I don't know how other Eastern European countries, but Czech Republic went through this experience in the early 90s already. There were two opposing leaders, one of them extremely left, one of them extremely libertarian, right-wing. Their name were Klaus and Zeman. And the Czech public was in one particular first election campaign suddenly hit by extreme wave of hate, creating the impression that if the other part of the political spectrum wins, the world is gonna down. So you are allowed to do everything to prevent them to be elected. And we split it into two radicalized camps, hating each other like it was unbelievable. So it was practically impossible to say, I'm somewhere in the middle, I don't know yet, because the people were totally out of their mind. And this was done solely by election campaigns and by media and social media, and even before the era of social media, just the messaging. And those two leaders, turns out, were both working for Russians. So we thought, a part of the nation thought, okay, the leftists are almost communists, they are dangerous. And part of the nation was thinking, okay, those thugs, they've stolen everything. They say they're gonna privatize the state, but they are actually trickers and fraudsters. And there was no middle. The middle just disappeared.
Jesus
It was in vain.
It's just, I hear this and I hear echoes of what we are living through right now in America.
And right now, those two one of them is our president. Everyone knows it's a Russian thug. Now it's obvious because he was supporting his entire presidency. He was supporting Russians like hell. He was amplifying their propaganda, doing them favors. And the second one was president of the Czech Republic before him. Both became presidents of our country. And we know both served Russia in the 90s, since the 90s.
Well, I just want to read something to everybody and get your opinions on this. This
Sorry,
goes back. No.
Sucks when I get
you're
too emotional.
Brilliant, Alex. And this is a show where we swear liberally. We do everything we can because this is emotional stuff. This is something that was posted today by a reporter who read it. It doesn't matter where it comes from. This is a Canadian woman who is reading her social media, and this is what she thinks is really happening in Ukraine. And this goes back to what Jim said in Hellscape. Here's what's really going on in Ukraine. Ukraine is the deep state's playground. This is where they launder their money, run child trafficking, make bioweapons to release on the world for depopulation purposes. Pelosi, Biden, Kerry all have sons on the boards of Ukraine energy companies. Putin is on our side and working with Trump. Russia is not trying to occupy Ukraine. They are bombing the shit out of the deep state stronghold. No citizens are targeted. Only tactical military and bioweapon facilities are targeted. The US has 11 bioweapon labs in Ukraine that we fund. Putin just took them all out because Gates already announced another pandemic was coming. The good guys are finally on the offensive and kicking ass, but you won't hear it on fake news. Expect big things from China and Taiwan next. Now, I read that and got really emotional because I had just read Jim's most recent Substack, which indicated that this is the narrative that is infecting the brains of people. Yeah. And Alex, you first, you hear this, and this must have echoes of Soviet era propaganda in your head.
Absolutely. By the way, for both my books, I have studied a lot of material and a lot of different, I have to do a lot of different research of their propaganda methods. It's obvious. We always laugh in Czech Republic because in turning points of history, when Russia comes to the decision trigger to change their policy, when something different, when something totally changed in their political space, their trolls internationally are without instructions like for 24 or 48 hours. So they are silent, and we always point at them and waiting what's coming up. And after maximum 48 hours, we always joke that they got the new notes, and they are able literally in 2 days.
Wow.
Completely from the anti-vaccine, all checks disinformation webs, literally in 48 hours, switched from anti-vaccines to praising Russia, to this, okay, what you just said, deep state and thugs and pedophiles and
oh God, it's like so refreshing.
Silence. They always, and it's happening again and again. They get for 2 days silent because they have no notes. They have no instructions, and until once they get them, whoosh,
comes the coordinated talking.
Okay, so we're talking about media. We're talking about social media. How much do you think social media companies, these big tech social media companies, are complicit in allowing this propaganda to spread and harm people?
You know what? It goes deep down into history, and I write about it in my book, Feeding the Demons. The most important person in development of the very idea of social media was Yuri Milner, a Russian in Silicon Valley, an oligarch, who at the very beginning, 2009, I guess, invested a huge portion of money, of Russian state money, Gazprom and VTB Bank, which is sometimes called as Putin piggy bank, right now under sanctions. Of those two state-driven subjects, a huge portion of Russian money into Silicon Valley, mainly into Facebook and Twitter. This money was a huge kickoff in the start, because Zuckerberg had a real problem at the very start with his, I don't know, burning rate. I don't know, how is it
burn
called?
rate? It's how much they spend daily while bringing in money.
He couldn't somehow get out of the wood, so he was constantly burning too much money, and nothing came back. And suddenly he went to Moscow, met with Medvedev, and there are those happy photos, like shaking their hands and wearing the T-shirt of Facebook and the Red Square. And suddenly everything went so fine. Then came Yuri Milner, offered the money, and then no one actually speaking about it. Then came Sheryl Sandberg. She's a daughter of Russian immigrants on Florida. And this lady invented the entire business model of Facebook, which is based on amplification of informations which are preferably outrageous, which makes you angry. Those informations, the algorithm clearly prefers the distribution of this type of information to make money and to get a lot of personal psychological data in the background. They are sucking the data out of our profiles, Cambridge Analytica, without our allowance, even know. They just sucked out the psychological data of Facebook clients and completed them with another huge portion of databases like voter rolls, financial leaks, data, who is bankrupt, and so on. And they created a huge database. And this wouldn't be never possible without Facebook psychological data and without this model Sheryl Sandberg created and pushed forward.
The algorithm was pretty simple, right? It was just if it's more engaging, give the audience more of that. The problem is that they knew that engagement, it was basically 100% correlated with anger.
Yes, exactly.
Which is interesting.
It became a radical. Negative information is psychologically more powerful than positive information.
Well, it's like Fox.
So it just became a radicalization engine. It became a self enforcing way for radicalization to happen. And they absolutely knew it. The thing that Cambridge did was micro-target it to specific areas and specific demographics, right? Because they didn't want to make everybody radicalized, just the people in the specific places where they needed more voters.
That's right. And Fox turned everybody into outrage junkies too. That was the whole Roger Ailes methodology.
That's the background radiation of the Big Bang, absolutely.
Once Facebook becomes successful with that business model, everyone else just went the same way.
Direction.
And Wojcicki, everyone. It was like, wow, there is a lot of money. Let's go this way. And so with that surveillance capitalism, basically, we are not living in a democracy anymore. We are living in an algocracy because our information distribution, which is the very core of democratical function of the Constitution, is played by algorithms we have no influence on.
Well, and the oligarchs own the media and they own the social media and they feed people whatever they want to feed people.
I'm just letting that soak in.
An entire network of business companies distributing the ads to the disinformation webs, and the disinformation webs are being promoted on social media because they are so outrageous, and so they are like sweethearts of Facebook and Twitter because they help to make them money.
That's right.
And increasingly, what it makes with the entire population is that we are seeing the enemy in our neighbor, not in Russia.
Yeah.
It's our neighbor who deserves to be punished.
Yeah. Which is
it's Russia.
Well, but I mean, no.
It's Russia.
This is brilliant. This is really brilliant. I need to figure out how to spell Algocracy because we're going to throw that into the title along with the title of her book, The Industry of Lies. I have two quick questions before we let you go, which I know we're running late. So I want to ask this of every single guest because this is going to be a theme this year. How vast do you think the underground troll economy is and how can we fight back?
Shall I start?
Mm-hmm.
How could we fight back? I think we are already fighting back for the first time in the history, because the subversion of the Western countries went since 1996, when General Samsonov, as the chief of the General Staff of Russian Army, for the first time postulated the theory of hybrid warfare, as a subversion of institutions and undermining of population perception. It was 1996, so the air warfare went and developed within 26 years, and we, for the first time now, we are fighting back.
Okay.
And really with an impact, not like, we put under sanctions some companies exporting peers to Donbass.
Yeah.
Right? So this time it really matters. And we should do this 2010, 2012.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The thing
until their power, in between time, their power grew up like a monster from Harry Potter. So
because we allowed it, right?
Yes.
In our final, they grew. They have roots in our very flesh of the democracy, in our banking system, in our justice, in our media.
Yes.
So they are, and now it really hurts to get them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about Peter Thiel earlier, right? And Peter Thiel not only is anti-democratic and all of that, but he's got Palantir buried deeply in every 3-letter agency in America.
Data
and
is
has
the new
scraped
uranium of the
Facebook
21st century.
and Twitter and every single other social media platform for every single bit of information that they could possibly have. And they're selling that data to police departments, to CIA, to God knows who else. Because they're under no restriction to not sell it to foreign governments.
Yes.
I'm so excited at this conversation. This is the part where we always ask our guests to please come back, but I have a couple other things I want to bring up. Dark violet faces. Talk to our audience about dark violet faces, these pickled generals who stand behind Putin. And then Hi-Fi's strategic bombing idea. So you first, Alex.
I didn't get much sleep those days, obviously, like everyone.
Yeah.
And the first thing I really do in the morning when I wake up is to go and check my Twitter and what's happening.
Yeah.
The first video I've seen this morning was the Putin announcement of nuclear standby emergency state in Russia. For the first time, he didn't sit behind that long table. He had his 2 main military persons next to him, Shoigu, the Ministry of Defense, and Gerasimov, the author of his military doctrine, the chief of staff. They were on his right hand, immediately next to him. And I've seen those faces before, because it was constant picture I've seen. I used to see entire childhood these Russian generals completely soaked with alcohol, with that small eyes and dark faces, and they didn't blink, but it was absolutely clear to me that they don't get sober anymore just to survive this situation. It's the way how the Russians survive. They drink a lot. I always used to say that we Czechs drink a lot of beer, but Russians are basically, they live on alcohol and moonlight, and that's everything they need to survive.
Wow. Thank you for that. And Hi-Fi, what do you say?
So if you really want to disrupt Russia, bomb the vodka distilleries. That's how you do it. No more vodka. Russia sobers up.
I've got a 12-step program I could recommend.
We are laughing, but it might be true.
It might work.
I think it is true.
This
I
is the
think
time
it
for
is.
big ideas.
I'm not sure taking alcohol away from a whole bunch of alcoholics is going to make things calm down.
All right, we'll
Just
bomb
saying.
them slowly. We'll
It
just
may
take
not
one
actually
distillery
work
at a
that
time. We'll shut them down slowly.
Oh my God. Could you imagine dropping freaking AA books from the planes? Oh, that
Dear
observation.
Russia, smoke weed, all right?
Well, that observation is profoundly important. That observation, in my mind, is profoundly important because as the guys know, I look at a lot of the people that we talk about and write about, and the people who are part of the troll economy and the billionaires, I look at them as a lot of fucking sick boys. And I look at, like, there was a picture of Gavin McInnes from CPAC, and he clearly looked pickled. And so what you brought up, I think, is something that is very, very valid. And we hope if they breathe one sober breath, that they take a look at the sociopath in front of them and figure out a different way forward for Russia because of the absolute criminal acts that are occurring as we live and breathe right now, and the tragedy, and the tragedy that will continue to be compounded if nothing is done. So that was incredible.
Thank you so much.
Do you see any way out of this? Do you see any way out of this other than the Russian people need to rise up and remove Putin from power?
You know,
anything else, we're going to have nuclear war, I think.
Yeah, I know. There is actually, to me, I'm no military expert and political expert. I often used to joke that I'm just a propagandist. I'm like political marketing person. But what I see, there is no precedence to, except of one in Russian history. They never ever, the people never ever got rid violently of their rulers, except of one. It was the Bolsheviks revolution 1917.
Yes.
When they slaughtered their own Tsar.
Yeah.
This is over 100 years ago.
The last compassionate guy.
And by the way, with the help of Lenin, who was paid by Germans because they wanted to get Russia out of the First War.
Right. And right after that,
substantial
they
portion of money
like,
come back home and create the revolution.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And as
maybe
soon
it's
as
time.
What's that?
Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for Russia to overthrow their leader.
On that,
Here, I just don't
hand,
think that a policy of containment works with this guy anymore.
No,
I don't think we can do it anymore.
Yeah, we've jumped the shark on that.
We've exhausted that route, sadly.
So we are out of time. Alex, you're amazing. I want to thank you so much. You know what's funny is we actually had booked a friend who lives in Kiev, Paul Nyland, who apologized because he was in a bomb shelter all night and missed the recording. And I was so grateful because we're gonna do an interview with him in coming days. But I was so grateful that you rose to the occasion. I would not have missed this interview for anything in the world. And I want to make sure that you tell people where they can find your books.
Yeah, you can find, actually the Czech one, it was published only in Czech Republic. And so the second one you can find on Amazon, on each national Amazon site. It's named Feeding the Demons. There's on the cover is Donald Trump with the background of burning White House on the black background.
Yeah, how appropriate. Wonderful.
If you put in Google or in Amazon, Alex Alvarova Feeding the Demons, immediately the link pops up.
And we will include the link also in our web information that we put out. I want to thank you so very much. Hi-Fi, you had your finger up.
I just want to know, how soon can we expect the industry of lies Americanized? Because I think our country needs that. They need to understand what this factory of lies is.
It was actually a roadmap of Russian propaganda since the very beginning until now, until the digital era. I'd like to do this, just not by translate the book, because the book was written for Czech, for my Czech people. I'd love to write a different book.
I hope you do. We hope you do.
I'm doing like more than 1 year a podcast called Canaries in the Net with Czech scientist and IT guy. His name is Joseph Hawley. He's an expert for artificial intelligence and social media algorithms. And we are planning to write this book together.
Great.
Name it Canaries in the Net. And
that's amazing.
We are
great.
I want to hear that podcast.
I just got a full body chill. Oh, Alex, thank you so
it's
very
gonna
much for
happen.
being here with us. You're incredible. And we also I love seeing you on Twitter. And I just, keep on keeping on. I always say lonely are the brave, and we have each other. So
Yeah.
certainly makes me less lonely.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wow, she just rules so hard. Man, what a what a powerful
Alex is
person.
cool.
No, I mean, just the things that she knows based on her life experience. And I was up all last night because of learning about Alex's life, researching my father's own life. I lost him a few years ago, and he didn't want to talk about this stuff anyway. But, when Sudetenland was handed over to Hitler, what that meant for my dad was having to hide his sisters in haystacks for a number of, for most of their childhood from the rapey Russian soldiers, fuck war, fuck sociopaths. Okay, so I think that Sean, you are giving your digital descent over to Michael McKay. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, let's run that.
Yeah,
No better way to close this out.
beautiful. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, everybody.
Okay, guys, see you later.
Just it's very difficult to be frustrated, but I just want to say that we have to convince ourselves that it's never too late. At any stage, you can stand up and fight and do something. We can still stand with the Ukrainian people. You can always save what can still be saved. Where there's life, there's hope.
Where there's life, there's hope.
I
Good
guess.
stuff.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.